Hey everybody, Den Haring here for Fish Den 365, and don't you think it's time that we ought to talk about glide baits?
How about that, huh?
So I'm excited to talk about this category of fishing with you, a category of lures known as glide baits. Glide baits are a subset of another category of baits, what I would call hard swim baits, right? You have soft plastic swim baits, but then you have hard plastic swim baits as well. A good example of that is this Seville Magic Swimmer. A swim bait, a hard swim bait, is a bait that doesn't have a diving lip, no bill on it. It just has its own natural swimming action based on the shape, the cut, and sometimes the joints of the bait and the weighting of it as well. So here's a Magic Swimmer. This is a pretty well known lure. It's been around for a while now. Catches a lot of fish. This is a good fish catching hard plastic swim bait. But among the hard plastic swim bait category, you also have what we call glide baits. And a glide bait's action is a little bit different. It's unique and of its own. And this one is a custom glide bait that's made by a friend of mine named John Tosca. And you're going to want to stay tuned to this, because a little later on we're going to show you video footage of a number of the baits that John has made in action in the water. And believe me, you're not going to believe what you see when you see how these baits work in the water. It's like they're alive. It's amazing what these lures can do when they're made right and balanced just right. And John's got this down to a science. So we'll get back to this, but let's start at the beginning. Let's go back a little ways talking about glide baits, because they're not new. Glide baits have been around for a long time. People have been making these custom baits, actually probably over 100 years ago, and it's just not as well known and not the science that it's become today. But one of the interesting glide baits that I became aware of is one we talked about a lot here on the channel, and it is the Cordell Blue Striper. Now, it's a smaller bait compared to these other glides, but it is a glide bait. It has that typical glide action where it goes to one side and then the other. It just makes a big S in the water. And different glide baits have different glide profiles. Some are short. They go very, even among the blue stripers, you'll find variations where some quickly do this and others do this, much wider. So, and there's a time and place for both of those actions. One of the best known glide baits that's out there today is this one, the River to Sea S-Waver. This is the S-Waver 168. It's 168 millimeters long. They have a 120. Here's a similar colored 120. You can see the difference in size. There's also a 200 millimeter size S-Waver, which I don't currently have with me, but I do fish these two. I like the 168. The 120 I've caught fish on. I've fished this as well. I've caught stripers on it at night, but this 168 has a really nice action, and the bigger S-Waver, the bigger you go with the S-Waver, the wider that glide profile becomes. But this one is a good one because you can get this one and it won't break the bank. It won't cost too much, somewhere in that I don't know, $18 to $22 range, something in there, and it's worth it. If you don't have one of these baits, they're definitely worth getting. You can see I have a number of them here. I like this color. This color here is also known to be a really good killer, especially with smallmouth bass. Here's another one that I have. I've got a bunch of them. I like the S-Waver. They're affordable, and I got a couple more of the. Oops. Have a couple more of the smaller ones as well. Here's one that's made by Lucky Craft. This is the Lucky Craft LL Pointer. So this is a nice glide type bait that oftentimes is used for muskie fishing. I have some friends that like to throw this for muskies. So and glide baiting now has become very, very, it's the most popular that it's ever been right now, and it's because of how these things are being discovered and how they can attract fish And it's probably not by accident that with forward-facing sonar, these things are being used even more, because as a fisherman, if you have forward-facing sonar, you can throw this bait out there, watch your bait in action, see it out there, and see how the fish react to it. Like, you might be able to change your cadence, and all of a sudden a fish will come up and come after it or follow it. Or you may be able to get the fish to follow it by fishing it slowly and then just boom, boom, cutting it twice, making it jerk a few times, and the fish just explodes on it. So these baits are readily available now. You know, there's another one that I don't have. Spro makes one. Trying to remember the name of the Spro bait. Spro has a nice glide bait out called the KGB glide bait. It's very popular. It catches a lot of fish, and a lot of people really enjoy using it. But if you're really going to get into glide fishing, you have to get into some of these custom build ones. And there's a bunch out there. Some of these, like, you know, the problem with the glide baits like this is the amount of money that you have to pay for them. They're not cheap. Like, there's Roman Maid Mother is one that's well known. It's been out there a long time. That could be anywhere from $100 to $400 to $700, depending on which model you buy. And there's a number of people now that are making these things. Like I said, John Tosk is making this. You know, he's been doing this for about 1.5 years, and the learning curve that he's been through is incredible. From when he started to where he is now, and how he has these baits balanced, it just amazes me. When I got this one from John, he was telling me about, you know, I might want it to sink a little faster, and so he talked about putting heavier hooks on it. And before we did anything with it, he showed it to me, and he just threw it in a bucket of water. And when he did, it immediately went this way. It was going perfectly balanced, perfectly straight, but it was doing this. It looked like it was alive, and nothing even happened. No, you know, there was nobody reeling it in or anything. It just looked like it was living as it was going through. And when I saw that in the bucket like that, I'm like, John, don't change a thing. I don't need any different hooks on it. It's fine just the way it is. I really liked what I saw. And since then, I've been fishing with this bait, and it just has an incredible action. Like I said, hang in there for a little bit longer. We'll show you how some of these work. He had a number of them that we had on the water recently. He had a really great bluegill pattern that we tested, and a couple of these shad patterns of different sizes as well. So a bait like this, they have some weight to them. Even the S-Waver is not light. So it requires some specialized equipment if you're going to be doing this for any length of time. This bait here is somewhere between 3 and 4.5 ounces, for example. So, and there's some that weigh several ounces, even more than that. So depending on what you're throwing and how big they are, you really need a rod and reel that can handle that. And so the rod needs to be a heavy action rod. It needs to be at least 7.5 feet long. A lot of them are 8 foot. For me, 7'8" is probably 7'8" is probably what I would like the best for this. And then you need a reel that has some capacity line so that you can throw it. And if you get a big fish on it, like a big striper, you don't want to get spooled. So you want a little bit of a larger reel, something like a Shimano Curado 300, something in that range. It would work well. And then the line for these, generally you want to fish. You could fish straight fluorocarbon with them. You know, maybe 20-25 pound test, something like that, depending on how heavy the bait is. Or you can go with braid to fluoro, braid to a fluoro leader, maybe 30-pound test split braid with a 20-pound fluoro leader. I wouldn't go anything lower than 15-pound on the leader, because these baits are heavy, they're big, they're going to draw the attention of the fish. When the fish see these, they're going to see the bait and really not notice the line so much. As long as you got a leader on there, a fluoro leader, 15-20 pound test, you're good. So how do you fish these things? Well, you'll see this in a minute, because we're going to take you to the video in a few minutes, but there's a number of ways that you can retrieve them, and they do different things. So if I throw this bait out there and let it sink a little bit and let it go down and just start retrieving it very slowly, it'll have that glide action. It just goes back and forth, and you can fish it so slow, and it still just looks so alive. It just moves. It's constantly moving. You can reel it faster and keep it up, and the tail will be out of the water. So you can make it look like it's hurt on the surface. Part of the tail is out of the water. I'm gonna get some stripers on that come spring, especially at Nakamixon. Can't wait to throw that at night at Nakamixon for the stripers. You can do a lot of different things with this. You can speed it up, slow it down, and do tricks with it. I can make this bait turn around and face the fish. I can actually make this bait do this the glide, and then maybe 1-2 quick turns of the reel handle or quick twitches of the rod tip, and this thing will turn all the way around and it'll just stop, and it's looking at whatever's chasing it. That's got to drive big fish crazy if you can do when you do that. The other thing I really like to do with this is I like to get that glide going, and then I'll just do one harder reel so that it goes off and just keeps gliding off to the side. So it's going back and forth, and then all of a sudden just it goes off to one side, like something's wrong with it or that it's hurt. And then I can bring it right back to center again, and then maybe off to this side. And that's a lot of times how you can get these fish to trigger. It goes off to one side like that and just kind of trails off, and they'll come up and eat it that way. Lots of different ways you can experiment. Let's take you to the water now so you can see this for yourself. You'll see a number of the different actions that we get on the baits, and then we'll bring it right back here. We're out here with John Tosca. John has been making these swim baits and glide baits. And when did you start doing this, John?
A year and a half ago.
In a year and a half's time, you won't believe how far along John got with these baits. He's got it down to a science. You know, he did a lot of research, but he also did a ton of trial and error time. And he's got baits here that work just unbelievably. And look at it, this thing looks just like a gizzard shad. So let's show you what a few of these look like in the water. So we're going to keep this near the surface so you can see it, but check out the action on these things. And if you that's pretty good. Just sitting still. That'll catch fish just doing that. Just suspended down there. Should we put the bluegill on?
Yeah, try the bluegill.
I'm going to show you another pattern that John's got here. Talk about authentic shape. Look at that guy. Let's show you what he looks like. Getting the hooks all in my hands.
They're sharp.
They are. Alright, so I'm just going to lob this guy out there.
I lost. Oh, there you go.
This guy goes down more, so I'm going to have to reel him to keep him up. But you can see it's making a wake.
I lost it.
It's alright, you're looking right at it. If you touch that screen, it should come up again. Wow, that looks just like a bluegill. Holy man. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, you chuck it again when you're done with this. I did it.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Check this action on this gill. I'm gonna get it up to the surface a little more so you can see it. Here it comes. Look at that. I love that. What you see it doing there, how it tails off, that gets a response from the fish. You'll see it here in a second as I'm getting it closer. I'm keeping it up towards the surface just so you can see how this thing works. But look at that. That is unbelievable. That is, you can't get a better action than that. Look at that. It's actually facing the other way. You want to piss a fish off, that'll do it. That's really nice, John.
There you go. Yeah, I think you like the bluegill. Bluegill really works nice.
That bluegill is unbelievable. Have you thrown this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Catching any on it yet?
Yep. I got it in female and I got it in male. That's a male.
That's a great color.
All right, you can either open up the box.
You tell me. What do you
open up the box, the big box.
All right. Let me put this piece back.
Put those other ones back. Yep.
I don't want to get them. I'm going to let them dry for you.
Oh, okay.
We'll put it back in there. Should have brought a paper towel. All right, so got one here that you know has got a good glide action.
They all got a good glide action.
Let's show this little one first.
Yep.
And then maybe this one. What do you think?
You do whichever one you want.
So we'll do. I'm curious about this one.
Yeah, there you go.
Just the way you have that. All right, so we're gonna put a smaller one on. So here's what I would say is a really good, like an alewife pattern or a small gizzard shad. Feel very big eyes, very realistic. Let's see how this guy behaves in the water. Now this one's got that glide action. See how it glides back and forth, and if you twitch the rod a little bit, it's nice that it's white. You can see it a little bit better under there maybe. But slow glide action. It's just waiting to get eaten. I'll show you that one more time.
We're drifting off a little bit.
Wind.
Yeah.
So, look at, you can make this thing a topwater lure. This is going to be a Topwater Tuesday subject one day, folks. Look at this thing.
A wake bait.
Yeah, you can. It's a wake glide bait, both. And again, you can get it to turn around and face the fish that are chasing it. Whew. The gliding one too.
Another glide.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens? You do twitch, half turn, and then a half turn, but we have to have a little slack in your line.
Yeah, that way. Right. It's hard to do that when it's so close to the boat.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying, when you're out there, just
yeah, I'll do it.
and you can see that.
All right.
Getting there.
Turn that camera this way when you get a moment.
Yeah, I sure will. Try to do that. Turn the boat a little bit.
Here's another one, real nice pattern. It's got that white bait fish, gizzard shad look to it. Now that other one was more of a swimmer. We expect this is going to be more of a glide. Let's take a look at it. Oh, this has got a real nice, look at that. Wow. Yeah, I really like how they drift off like that. That's one of the best triggers you can have. How's it go when you go a little faster? It holds its balance real well at a faster speed, but it really looks like it's injured when you have that slow glide. And a real slow sink, so you can get this down further, but oftentimes what I understand, people are catching these when they're sinking like that, especially in the winter.
Yeah, well, they'll come up from it, you know, if you get it right in their face.
Yeah.
But what you can do with this bait also, because of this is the key, is the angle.
Yeah, that cut.
Of that cut.
Yeah.
So the angle of that cut,
that's what drew my attention to it.
Yep. So the more the angle, you can make it into a chop bait.
Yep.
So if you cast it out,
it'll actually make the noise too.
and then you fish it like a Zara spook.
Show you what he means by that, folks. Down a little deep, but it really has a crazy side to side action, and that makes more noise down there as well. Hopefully you can see that. It's got that injured bait fish look. Good stuff, John.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Ouch.
Oh, they're sharp.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, they're sharp. Different. Like I said, I don't know if you're ever going to mention other videos from other YouTubers. There's one called Engineered Anglers, or Angling Engineers, something like that.
I'll put a link. I can put a link onto it.
Yeah. And then Marlin Baits. And then Jekyll Baits.
Okay.
They're the three that I kind of like went and looked at the most.
And got good information.
Good information.
Yeah.
Yep, engineered angling, engineer angling, something like that. But as soon as you put engineered,
You'll find it.
you should find it.
All right.
And the other one's marlin, like a marlin.
Do you want to let these lay out, or should I put them
yeah.
on? All right. Just gotta maybe dry them off later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you saw how the bait acts. You heard John talking about it a little bit. He mentioned a couple of YouTube channels where he's learned a lot about how to make these baits. I will put that information in the description, on the bottom of the video, in the description of this video, I'll put those YouTube channels that John mentioned where he learned quite a bit. One of the things he showed me when I was at his house, because later we went to his house that day, he showed me a neat little trick that you can use with 2 simple ingredients: baking soda and super glue. So you can put some baking soda into a bait, or on a onto a piece of cardboard or whatever, and when you put that super glue onto it, it crystallizes and hardens. So that can make a good filler for if you're drilling holes in baits. Like I like to drill holes in these blue stripers and weight them, put extra weight in. And so that's one of the ways you can put. What I would do is put some cylinder weights in, maybe a couple of tungsten cylinder weights, and then I could use that baking soda with the super glue to close off the holes that I had those weights in, and then just paint over it and glue over it. So John's got a lot of cool tricks there. I have some pictures that we'll show you right now of his garage with these baits. You'll see a number of these glide baits hanging there, and it's kind of like the progression from when he started to where he is now, and it's just great. And then he also does a lot of painting of baits. So I have a number of crankbaits that I want to get to him. He has a really good smallmouth pattern. We'll show that to you now. Beautiful smallmouth bass pattern here, painted by John Tosca. So yeah, John's really coming along really well with the painting as well. Let me know in the comments below if you have an interest in me going further with this and showing you more about what my buddy John Tosca does for making these baits. We can go into more detail about this, or just about how he paints the baits, how he gets the different looks from painting, and that could be a good video as well. So let me know in the comments if you have an interest. Finally, I can't have a discussion about glide baits without mentioning another guy who makes these baits and has been doing this, well, at least since the 90s, maybe even since the 80s. And we are fortunate to have this person live in the area here. I live in Pennsylvania. My home lake is Nakamixon. His home lake is Nakamixon. His name's Keith Thomas. And you know, there's a lot of people making these glide baits out there, and you know, a lot of guys that fish them. Keith is probably, well, I would say he's definitely the best at this in the entire East Coast, maybe in the entire United States. He's incredibly good with glide baits and making them and fishing them. I've watched him fish them. You know, these baits are not, they're heavy. They're not easy to throw and without making a large splash. And Keith could take one of these baits and just do that underhand pitch, make that bait go a real good distance, and hardly make a splash in the water. That takes practice, believe me. I know, because I've tried it, and I can't do that yet. I'm still working on getting better at my entry in those casts. But that does make a big difference. If you can present these baits without making a large splash, you're going to catch a lot more fish that way. Anyway, Keith's been doing this for a long time. Keith is on Facebook as Black Talon Custom Lures. That's Black Talon Custom Lures. He makes and paints all kinds of these glide baits. He has a number of different models. I mean, a large number of different models. He's been doing this a long time, and his paint jobs are incredible. The best I've seen. He's got some really good paint jobs. I'll show you a few here. I just bumped into him last Saturday. I'll show you a couple of the pictures. You can take a look on the screen. You'll see some of the paint jobs that he's done, and just does an incredible job with these. And yeah, he's been doing this a long time, and you can get he's hard. You know, he sells these baits. It's difficult to get them because the demand is so high, and you're going to pay for them. But you know, you might ask, well, why would someone pay that much for a bait like that? Well, let's say you can get one for $150. Let's say you have to pay $400 for something like this. You might say, well, boy, that's way too much for a lure. But yet, if you think about it, you'll see people spend way more than that on a fish finder. You know, thousands of dollars on a fish finder. And there are circumstances where this bait here can be the best fish finder you'll ever use if you know how and where to throw it. It's amazing. I've seen this more than once, where when a fish sees this bait, they come unglued. Even if they don't eat it, they're following it, they're looking at it, they're incredibly curious, and it's usually the larger specimens that are coming out and looking at it, right? Your 4 to 5 pound or larger largemouths. Same thing with the smallmouths. Smaller fish will eat these too. You'll get 2 and 3 pound bass attacking these and following them. But this is one of the ways that you can actually use this bait, especially fishing in shallow water, to find fish. Now, how would you do that? How would you go about doing that? Well, I'll give you a couple thoughts. Couple brush piles, right? A fallen tree in the water. Fish this thing over that fallen tree and just watch and see if anything comes up. Boat docks. Throw it along a boat dock. Watch what happens. You'd be amazed at how fish will come unglued and come out of that dock looking for this bait. There's probably people that don't want me to say any more than I just did, or even not to say what I just did say, but until you experience it for yourself, you won't really know. But I can tell you, these things could be a fish finder too, and so that could be one of the best uses for them. And that's all I'm going to say about that at this point in time. You'll have to find that out. You'll have to find the rest of that out for yourself. So check Keith Thomas's lures out there, Black Talon Custom Lures, on Facebook. It's got some really great patterns. And like I said, my buddy John Tosca, he's doing this more as a hobby. I don't know if he'll ever get into really selling these baits outright, but if he does, I'll let you know, because he's doing a fantastic job in these baits as well. Well, if you have experience with glide baits, would love to know what you think. Do they cost too much? Are they worth it? Are they not worth it? What's your experience? Let me know in the comments, and hopefully we'll do another video on this category in the not too distant future. I'd love to get out there and just do a fishing video and show you what I do to fish these and how effective that they can be. Well, that's it for this episode of Fish Den 365. Stay tuned, we'll have more episodes coming. If you liked it, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And we'll see you next time. Be safe out there, and as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.